Hey y'all, I'm your host, Brooke Kinchin. Welcome to God's Coffee Call, a place where there's always a fresh brewed conversation happening of personal testimony and life experiences. So grab a cup of coffee, pull a chair to the table, and join our conversation. Happy 2025, y'all. Welcome back to God's Coffee Call. I am your host, Brooke Kinchin, and I am so excited for you to be here. Did you have a great new year? I did. It was wonderful. It was amazing. Spent with family, friends. We popped fireworks. We had a bonfire. We had a great time together, and we ended the year well. So hopefully I pray that you and your family did as well. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. I pray that the next word that I'm about to give you will bless your new year. That this next year will be something that just goes beyond your wildest dreams. I feel like the Lord has given me a word to encourage you with for this next year. Hopefully it is a word that propels you and pushes you forward into the things of the Lord. So are you ready to get started? Before we do, can you like this video? Can you subscribe to our channel? Can you share this video? It is the first episode of the new year, 2025. We've got some amazing testimonies and stories and things planned for this next year, and it starts today. Are you ready? It starts today. I'm so excited. I've been holding this word for a couple of weeks, just till I could record for you guys. And so it's a little more intimate setting than what we normally do. It's a different setting, but I wanted to personally take some time and just share this word with you, and talk through what the Lord has shared with me for this next year. So if you're ready, let's get our coffee. Let's get our word and let's get to moving. Are you excited? Awesome. So as I begin to prepare for this new year, just thinking about, Lord, what are you saying for this next year? I know some things I want to do. I know some things that I plan to do, but Lord, I want your heart and your word. And I started reading a book in the Bible that I don't know that honestly I've ever read before. I don't know that I've ever taken the time to read it, but I thought, why not? Because this year, 2025, I want to know more of the stories of the word. Well, and that takes me back to the Old Testament. I'm still studying the New Testament. Don't worry. It's not going anywhere. But I wanted to really dig into the word of the Lord in the Old Testament and find out some things he said that I didn't know. And so I started with Deuteronomy of all books. That's where I felt like I started. And by the 6th verse, the Lord was already speaking to me. So are you ready? Deuteronomy chapter 1. I'll set the stage for you. The people of Israel are come out of Egypt. They are out. Their forefathers have brought them out. The Lord has freed them. The Red Sea is split. They've had manna, they've had water, they've had the fire by night, the cloud by day. They've had all these encounters, and the word of the Lord had come that they would not go to the promised land until the old generation had died off. All of those who doubted, all of those who questioned the Lord, all of their parents and the few past generations that really just didn't go into this place of freedom with the best of hearts. Their hearts were still tied to slavery. Their hearts were still tied to idolatry. Their hearts were still tied to not really fully trusting the Lord, right? And so a word of the Lord had come that none of those people would go into the promised land. Not even Moses. Moses didn't even make it to the promised land, but that Joshua and Caleb would take them into the promised land. And so we find the people, Moses is still alive, but they have come and they have found themselves at this place that was between the mountain and the river, and they were dwelling there. And I didn't know that the 40 years that they were in the wilderness, that I always heard that they were in the wilderness wandering around because of their disobedience. And part of that is true. But also, they not only left Egypt, but they conquered cities. They defeated kings, they defeated towns and villages, and took those and set up land there. They dwelled there in that place. And um, these people had settled at the mountain, the bottom of the mountain of Horeb, I think is how we say it. And they're dwelling there. And Moses brings a word to them from the Lord. In Deuteronomy chapter 1, I'm going to read it from my Bible because I want to make sure I got it right. And it says, verse 6, it says, "When we were at Mount Sinai, the Lord our God said to us, 'You have stayed at this mountain long enough. It's time to break camp, move on, go to the hill countries and to the neighboring villages, to the hills, the foot plains, and the coastal lands, all the land up into the river I have given to you.'" I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this word. I feel like the word of the Lord for 2025 is kind of like a dad talking to a kid or a mom talking to their kid when they're doing something and you walk in and you say, "Enough is enough." And another translation of my word, Moses says, "The Lord has told me, enough is enough. You've been here long enough. You've been at this place long enough. You have been at the base of this mountain." And I dug a little deeper into that mountain. I dug a little deeper, not just into the Mount Sinai, but the other mountains that were in that area. And the names of the mountain in that area they were in literally translates to the desolate place. The desolate place. What is desolate? It means that it is empty. It is without artifact. It is without anything in that place. So the Lord speaks to Moses. He steps on the scene and he says, "Enough dwelling in this deserted place, in this desolate place, in this place where there is nothing for you." I love that it said that when I looked up the definition of desolate place, it said lacking artifacts. Artifacts are things from history that retell the story, things of history that remind us where we have come from, things that have happened in the past. They point us into a direction of what's happened in the past, and it causes us to remember the battles, the victories, the sayings, the doings of the people before us. And these people had found themselves in a desolate place with no reminder of what the Lord had done, with no reminder of the victories that they had won, with no reminder of the story of what the Lord had done. And so God walks into the scene and he says, "You've been here long enough." And maybe that's for you. I pray for you for 2025 that you hear the word of the Lord. You've been here long enough. You've been in the empty place long enough. I don't know. This may not be for everybody, but I really felt like, because I've been there. Just a few years ago, I was in that empty place. I was in that desolate place. I had nothing to hold on, nothing to grasp on to remind me of the goodness of the Lord. And he came in like a daddy and said, "Enough's enough." And he gives them 3 commands. And I want to talk about this one. He gives them 3 things to do, and they're all action words. He says, "I want you to turn around." He says, "Pick up your camp, turn around, take what's in front of you and go." Turn, take, and go. That's the word of the Lord. Enough is enough. It's time to turn around. To turn around means to stand or to take your position and shift it. Shift your gaze. Move from what you've been looking at, move to another direction. What you've been engaged in, move to a different direction. What you've been pursuing, pursue in a different direction. For some of you, that's a word. God is saying enough is enough. It's time to pursue a different way. It's time to turn a different way. Maybe you've been in college and you've been struggling of, do I stay in this course? Maybe you've not been in college and you're wondering, do I go to college? The Lord is saying, turn, go a different direction. Maybe you've not been content in your job and you've been praying, Lord, give me some direction. This is your word of the Lord. Turn, take a different direction. Maybe the Lord's calling some of you into ministry. Maybe you've been running from the Lord. He's saying, turn, take a different position. And not only turn, he said, take up your camp, take up what you have, what's with you. Turn and go a different direction. And then he says, and take the land. What are you taking? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's dig back in here. He says, I want you to go break camp, take the hill cities. In one of my other verses of the Bible, it says, take the mountains, the high places. Maybe you've been at some really high highs this past year. Maybe you've had some encounters with the Lord that just cannot be explained away. He said, take those with you. I've given you those. And then he goes on further and he says, and I want you to go to the neighboring countries, to the valley lands. In between those high points with the Lord, there's this valley. We read in Song of Solomon that there are lilies in the valley. There are treasures in that valley, in that quiet place, in that silent place. Sometimes you feel like the Lord has not been speaking. He's there in the valley with you. He says, take those high moments, take those low moments. And then he goes a step further and he says, and I want you to take the plain lands. What are the plain lands? I remember in middle school learning about landscape and different typologies of the earth, and one of them is a plateau place. And I always loved plateaus. I don't know why I enjoyed learning about plateaus. I just thought it was very odd that the earth would be all like this and then all of a sudden it'd be flatland, right? The plateaus are level ground. They're even ground. But on plateaus, there's not very much there. And sometimes we get in that place with the Lord. Sometimes we get in that place where we're walking and we're going through these ebbs and flows. And then all of a sudden it's just like kind of at flat lines. You ever been there? You ever been in that place where it just seems like the Lord's not talking, nothing supernatural is happening, no inspiration's really coming. It's not crazy, but it's not peaceful. It's not wild, but it's not joyful either. It's just kind of we're like coasting. The Lord said, I've even given you those places. I've given you the experiences with me. I've given you the valley lands, and I've given you those those plateaus where we're just walking through life. We're just kind of making our ways. A lot of people will say that it's silent when God's testing you. Sometimes the plateaus are God just saying, okay, what did you experience on the mountain? What did you experience in the valley? Can you walk in that for a way? Maybe you've been in that walking place for a while. Maybe you've been in that, okay, Lord, I feel you, but I don't feel you. I see you, but I don't see you. I hear you, but I don't really hear you. Maybe you've been in that plateau place. The Lord is saying, I've given you that land. And then he goes even further. He says, and I've given you the land even all the way to the sea, the coastlands, the borderlands, the outer. I thought about the Lion King, and there's a moment where Mufasa sits on the edge of a rock with Simba, and he says, as far as your eye can see to the Shadowlands is our kingdom. I feel like the Lord is saying that as far as you can see to the river edge, to the coastlands, to the border of the season that you're in, to the borders of the places that you can see, God has given you that land. And not only has he promised it, given it to you, he says, I've promised it to your forefathers. See, it's been yours all along, but maybe nobody's reminded you of that. The Lord has given you things. Maybe nobody's reminded you in a while. The Lord has given you lands. He's given you experiences. He's given you the lowly place. He's given you the quiet places. He's given you the border regions, the places that you can see, but you're not quite there yet. He's given those to you. And he's calling you in this year to turn, go a different direction, and pursue. He says, turn and take those lands. Take, it means I'm coming into possession. I'm holding it in my grasp. If I take something from someone, I'm wrapping my hands around it. I'm engaged with it, right? It becomes mine. It belongs to me. It's part of who I am, right? That's what the Lord's calling you this year. Some of you just need to turn. Some of you need to turn and take the land. Take the promises of the Lord. Maybe you got a prophetic word when you were younger and you're not walking in it. Maybe you feel like the Lord has told you to do something and you've not done it. It's time to turn and take what he's promised you and what he's promised before you and before you. There were generations, 40 years before these people got this word of the Lord promised their people that they would have a promised land flowing with milk and honey. They've not even made it to the promised land, and the Lord is saying, I've given you this land. I've given you this place. I want to encourage you, take position and take possession. Stand in your position and take that possession of the land that the Lord's given you. He's given you a spouse. He's given you children. He's given you a family. He's given you a job. He's given you finances. He's given you a home. He's given you a car. Possess them, engulf them, engage in them, overtake them. Let them be part of you and you part of them. And the next thing he said is, I want you to go. I want you to go. Don't stand still. You know, it's one thing to hear the word of the Lord. It's one thing to turn and look at a thing. It's one thing to turn and go grab it. But then it's another thing when you actually go into the land, when you proceed forward, when you like I can turn, if somebody was standing here with a sucker, I could turn to them and grab the sucker, but then I need to go with the sucker. I need to take it with me, right? Take my cup of coffee with me. Take whatever I'm possessing and I'm going to go. I'm going to move forward. Going doesn't mean moving backwards. Going means proceeding forward, stretching yourself forward, stretching to the next level, going to the next place. And so I want to encourage you in this next season. God is saying it's time to turn, it's time to take, and it's time to go. But it doesn't just stop there. Doesn't just stop there, because in this moment when Moses is sharing this, he reverts back to a time previous where the Lord had told them to go and take the land, and the people gave an excuse, and they said, well, I don't know if we can do this. I don't know if we can do this. Will you put some people in leadership that will help us do it? So he did that. Moses did that. He put some people in order, some leaders in order to help them pursue that. Some of you need to put some order into your life. I need to put some order into my life. The Lord is saying, bring some order to the things I've promised you. If you don't feel like you can fully possess, you can fully take, fully go, then ask for accountability. Ask for someone to go with you. Ask for someone to give you insight. Seek wise counsel. The Lord is not calling you to do this alone. He's not asking you to do this alone. The people were wise enough to say, we can't do this. So Moses, from every tribe, designated leaders from every tribe. He took some of the smartest men, some of the wisest men, full of knowledge and wisdom of the tribes, and set them as leadership. You need authority in your life. I need authority in my life. I need someone higher than me, with a little more wisdom than me, and a little more grace than me, and a little more everything than me, to help me go forward into what the Lord's calling me to do, to call me forward into what he's asked me to do. And not only that, but Moses said, I did this and you said it was good. God is trying to bring some leadership into some of our lives, and we are just pushing back. You've got some people speaking into your life that's trying to give you wise counsel, that's trying to direct you to the plain lands, that's trying to direct you to the mountains, trying to direct you to the borderlands, and you're fighting. And the Lord is saying here, you need to come into agreement with my plan. Some of you need to stop fighting and pushing back from the Lord and come to agreement with the Lord in 2025. What is he saying for you? What is he calling you to do? What is he calling you to advance into? Come on. This is not me. This is Deuteronomy chapter 2, and we're only on verse 9. We're not very far into this. So who knows what else is coming. But this is what I feel like the Lord is saying. Not only that, do you need to come into agreement with it, but there's going to be moments that the people here, they begin to send out people to scout out the land. They begin to study the land. They begin to search out, what does this land hold for us? What does this land include? I did this a couple of years ago, several years ago. I really got interested in media. And what does it take to run media? Social media, content, what is the aspect of that? I had no idea. And for a long time, I just disqualified myself. I just said, you're 40. At the time, I was like 43, 44, some. You can't do this. And I looked into going to school, and I looked into trying to get hired at an agency that would teach it to me. And finally, the Lord said, just use what you've got. And what did I have? I had YouTube and Google. YouTube and Google is what I had. And so I began to scout the land of media, and I began to scout and understand how to do this and how to do that and what works and what doesn't work. I have a long way to go. I mean, you could probably look at this video and point out 1,200 different things that need to happen. But I invested time in to understanding what needs to happen and how it needs to happen, and how on social media your algorithms work, and how posting works and engagement works. I have that understanding because I scouted the land of what I felt like the Lord was calling me to do. So some of you need to scout out the land. Some of you need to say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. What is it going to take? What is it going? It doesn't mean that you start right there. Let me tell you this. Just because the Lord has said, turn, take possession, and go, doesn't mean that you're at the borderlands yet. Doesn't mean that you're on the mountain yet, but it's a journey towards it. And the Lord is calling and asking some of you to come and take the journey with him. Come and turn, take, and go with him. Scout out the land, take the journey with him, and eventually you'll find yourself at the raging river, at the River Jordan. That's what happened with these people, with the Israelites. They found themselves at the Jordan River, and they found themselves at the Promised Land, and they crossed over, and they won battles, and they possessed the land flowing with milk and honey. They possessed the land of promise that was not given to them, but was given to their forefathers, but they had the courage enough to walk into it. I want to encourage you in 2025. This is what I felt like the Lord said, is it's time to come out of the desolate place. It's time to come out of the barren land. It's time to come out of the season where there's no fruit happening in your life. It's time to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, turn a different direction. Turn and set your eyes on the way that the Lord is calling you. Take possession of it. Own it. Take leadership of it. Take a hold of it. Go and pursue it and scout it out. It's really that easy. I know it seems big. I know it seems hard. These people had lived in this land for 40 years. It was their home. It was what was familiar. It was what they knew. There were memories. There were smells. I could still drive to my home where I grew up and remember things that happened in the front yard. I remember sitting having coffee underneath the tree. I remember living in the home. My cousins now live in that home, but I still can walk in that home because I live there, and I know secrets about that place that nobody else knows, right? I know things that have happened there that nobody else knows because they didn't dwell there. And sometimes it's sad that I don't get to live there and get to encounter that home because it's someone else's now. And it's bittersweet at times. And maybe that's you. I've lived here in this place so long, God, that it's bittersweet to leave. It's hard to leave. There's memories here. There's smells here. There's secrets here, I know. But the Lord is calling you to go, to turn, to take, and possess a different land. The memories will always be there. The smells will always be there. They're there, lodged in your heart. They're lodged in your mind, and that's okay. But would you rather dwell in the memory of things that have happened, or would you rather pursue the goodness of God, the promise of the Lord that he has for your life? Pursue the things that he's pushing for you, that he's already provided. He says it's a land with milk and honey. Milk and honey for you. Back in those days, they didn't have Coke, they didn't have Sprite, they didn't have sparkling water, they didn't have Red Bull, they didn't have all these things, but they had milk and they loved honey. And he said, there, I've got things for you that you desire, things that you crave, things that you're longing for, things that you're asking for, things that you don't have to work for. The Lord has got things for you stored up in this next season that you're not even asking for. But you're going to have to turn, you're going to have to take possession, and you're going to have to go towards it. And so that's what I want to encourage you with in 2025. I don't know where you are. I don't know the promises that the Lord's given you. I don't know the prophecies that's been spoken over your life. I don't know the longings of your heart, but the Lord does. And he's got good things for you, and he's got great things for you. He's got so much left for you. That milk and honey, the thing that you deeply crave, the thing you deeply long for, he's got it for you. He's just waiting for you to possess it. He's waiting for you to come and take a hold of it. It's like he's holding in his hand. He's like, here, will you take it from me? It's your gift, but it's not truly yours till you grab it. Right? You got gifts for Christmas, and they sat under the tree, and they had your name on them, but they weren't really yours till you picked them up and you opened them and you engaged with them and you looked at them and you marveled at them and you took them out of the box and you used them and you worked with them, right? That's when they take on their full potential, is when we engage with what God's got for us. So I want to encourage you with that. I want to push you forward into what the Lord has for you in 2025. It's not going to look like everybody else. It's not going to be like everybody else. But it is a time and a season for some of you out there to get up, leave the lands that you've been, to turn, take, and possess the thing that the Lord has for you. The things that the Lord has called you to do. It's time to do that. Amen? Listen, I love you. It's not a long episode for our first episode of the year, but I just wanted it to be good for you. I've been excited about sharing this word, and I can't wait to see how you turn, you take, and possess. I can't wait to hear from you. If you're here and you're watching, in the comments, let me know. What are you turning from? What are you turning to? What are you taking? What are you possessing? What has the Lord promised you? Because when we begin to name those lands and we begin to express those lands and scope out those lands, we begin to just fully engage with them. They become part of our DNA. They become part of who we are. Listen, when the people got to the promised land, it wasn't always easy. There were battles they had to fight. There were some wins, some losses. But it was the point of them going across the river, into the river of the Lord, into the Jordan River, being cleansed from their past, being cleansed from their old ways, walking through that river to the new land. Maybe some of you need to be baptized. Maybe you need to be rebaptized. And just wash away the old land, wash away the old place, wash away the old, and walk into the new year fresh and new and alive. I'd love to do that for you. If you've never been baptized or you want to be baptized and you're saying, hey, I don't have anybody to baptize me, baptize yourself in the tub, baptize yourself in your really cold pool. Probably not. Your jacuzzi, get a water hose, get in your shower and pray to the Lord, or call me and we'll find somewhere to baptize you, put you under some water somewhere. But I want to encourage you. Walk through the river of the Lord. Let him wash you clean from the old and start in the promised land. And to get there to that land, you've got to turn, take possession, and go to where he's calling you. Amen. Listen, I love you so much. Thank you all for your support here at God's Coffee Call. We are working this year to build our platform. We've got some amazing things this year coming up. We're going to address family. We're going to address marriages. Up until this point, we really just told people's testimonies. We're going to continue doing that. But we've got some fun workshops coming up where we've got people coming in talking about how do you do your finances? How do you run your family? What is the role and positions of parents? What is the role and positions of children? How do you be single in this day and age and date according to the word of the Lord? There is so much happening. We've got some fun surprises coming up this year, and it all happens because of you. So I'm asking you, if you've not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. That helps us. That helps us grow. I don't get paid. I don't have enough people watching God's Coffee call to get paid. That's not what I do. I come here because I want to share the word of the Lord with you. I come here because I want to encourage you and myself to grow to be who God's called us to be, the bride of Christ, set apart, purified, and you've been amazing. So would you subscribe to our channel? Would you like this video? And would you share it to your platforms? Share it to your social medias. Invite your friends over to God's Coffee Call. We are trying to raise those our subscribers so more people can hear about God's Coffee Call, so more people can hear the word of the Lord in a fun, unique, different kind of way. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for being here, tuning in. I'm going to grab my coffee right here behind me. Thank you for joining me. Again, you just don't even know how blessed I am because you join me and you hang out here with us. And so I pray that this year in 2025, you turn, you take, and you go in 2025. That doesn't rhyme. It's not cute. I don't care. That's what the Lord said. Turn, take, go. Turn, take, go. I love you. I appreciate you. Hey, if you'd like some merch from God's Coffee Call, we have a merch page. And we're actually probably going to throw a t-shirt up there on our website this afternoon. Well, after you watch this video, there will be a t-shirt on our website that says Turn, Take, and Go 25. And if that is your promise, if that's what you're standing on for the word of the Lord for 2025, take a moment, buy you a little $15 t-shirt and declare it everywhere you go. Amen. Well, listen, I love you. You do not want to miss next week's episode. I'm telling you, next week's episode is going to rock your world. We deal with the real world stuff we have up until this point, but it's going to get even deeper. We're going to talk about self-harm. We're going to talk about redemption. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy things. But most of all, the redemption of the Lord, and the word of the Lord is beautiful and powerful. So please tune in next week to God's Coffee Call, 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Until then, I thank you. I pray that your coffee is strong, that your heart is full. And then in 2025, you turn, you take, and you go. I'll see you next week. Bye.